Hi, my name is Veronica. I am an ISTP, and as some of you know, I got married about a year and a half ago to an INTJ. And I think that my experience with dating and getting married was on the unique end of the spectrum, so I just want to talk a little bit about what that was like. I would like to say before I start though, that this is my experience based on my background, my situation, and so please do not assume that every ISTP you know is going to feel the same way or act the same way. This is just another data point for you. So getting into a relationship with my husband initially, with my now husband initially, I never went through any honeymoon phase, and by that I mean that we never went through any phase where we were obsessed with each other or where we were just like having so much fun that, I don't know, that we just didn't see any of the flaws in the relationship. So I was very confident that I wanted to get married eventually. And I started dating him because he seemed like a really good guy. And actually before we had started dating, he had met a lot of my friends and made friends with them separately. And we had been talking a lot for like a month or two. So everyone was telling me he was a good guy. From what I could see, he seemed like a good guy. And so it seemed like I should give this relationship a chance. And I enjoyed being around him. We had a lot in common. It wasn't like a ridiculous idea to date him. But I also wasn't like having any delusions that I was in love with him, like, for a long time. So I've heard a lot of people say that at the beginning of a relationship, it should be like fun and easy, and that if there's any problems at the start, that's like a really bad sign because it only gets harder. And I think that's what I've always heard is like dating, it only gets harder. And then once you get married, it's really hard, you know? And I'm sure that in a certain context, that is true. And that follows a lot of people's experiences. But in my experience, that was not at all true. I would say it actually started off the hardest. And by that, I don't mean that like we weren't fighting at all. It's not that we had like this unhealthy relationship. It's just that we were both fully aware that the other person was human. And we were aware that our relationship was like very much wanting. And, you know, and that's just, it makes sense. It's because we barely knew each other. We were coming from different backgrounds. We had formed different impressions of the world and different ideas over the years, you know, before we met each other. And so, of course, we're gonna clash, you know. Like, we could respect each other and we could see the value in each other and the potential as a spouse in each other. And we enjoyed talking to each other, but it just wasn't that easy because we didn't know each other well enough, you know? And I think I knew that, so I wasn't alarmed by it. You know, I knew that we weren't having like an unhealthy clash. It was like two people trying to merge their lives to a certain degree, and it just comes with some difficulties. So as time went on, our relationship did like slowly, little by little, start to improve and become better. And I took that as being a really good sign, but I also started to realize that I had quite the fear of commitment and getting married, which wasn't a shock. I've always been bad at committing to things. I didn't take my fear of committing to him as a red flag, because I think deep down I really knew it was a problem with me, and it wasn't that connected to who he was. It was more just about who I was, and that was what was causing the problems. So that prompted me to do a lot of thinking. And I think I really came to the conclusion that my life was already defined by innumerable limitations, but that those limitations were actually good things. And that, you know, when you can't do everything, you take what you can do and you do it really well. I guess I started to really realize that, yes, I had a certain type of freedom without being married. But that I didn't have the freedom yet to have the best possible relationship with this guy I was dating. And so I started to shift my mindset. Instead of being like committing to him would be like this cage or this lack of freedom, I started to realize that I had one type of freedom at the time, and if I committed to him, I would gain a different type of freedom, and that I couldn't have both at the same time. And so I think once I really understood that, that was the point where I started to actually desire getting married to my boyfriend. So once I knew, I like really knew. And I think that was an interesting experience because I always viewed myself as being so slow to take action and so slow to commit to anything. But in this situation, once I actually knew what I wanted, I had no problem taking action. And after that, we actually, I think we got engaged like about a month after that. And then, okay, other side of the spectrum, it's not like he was the whole time being like, I'm gonna marry you. And then once I was ready, he was ready. He was going through his own thing and came to a conclusion at a similar time that he wanted to marry me. And so kind of around similar time, we were both ready to get married. And so, yeah, we got engaged and then we got married 4 months after that. So another kind of unique thing about our relationship was that neither of us told the other that we loved each other before getting married. And it was really because I didn't trust my emotions. It's not that I didn't have feelings of love or feel like I loved him, but at the same time, no amount of that feeling was 100% convincing me that it was true. Until I actually said my vows and like made that commitment, there was always a little bit of an element of this might not last, you know, like until it's final, it's not final. And if it can end, was it ever love? And I'm not saying that if it can end, it wasn't love. I don't know the answer to that, but that was kind of the thing that was holding me back. And I guess for me, I knew that if I committed my entire life to him, that was proof of love. And then once I did, you know, actually get married, that's exactly how I felt. And so, you know, kind of like how people say that it should start easy and then it gets harder. They also say that once you get married, it's like really hard. And I did not experience that at all. And it's not to say that everything was perfect or that there was no room for improvement, because there absolutely was. And there was, you know, kind of figuring out marriage. Like, it doesn't come automatically. It took time and practice, but I feel like it was a really positive experience. And I think maybe that's just because I had such a practical mindset leading up to it, that when it actually came, nothing really surprised me. It was exactly what I expected, and there was nothing about him that was a shock to me, because I was already pretty cognizant of his flaws, you know. And he's also pretty, like, he presents what he is, you know. He's not a fake person. And so there was no like big surprises. So yeah, so overall I'd say marriage was a great idea. But yeah, my experience maybe wasn't totally typical. So anyways, that's it. Leave a comment, let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from anyone else. What is your either experience with getting married or your imagination of how you feel about getting married? Any of that, let me know. Thanks.